Before this story ends, you'll understand why sometimes the smallest promise can change an entire life. But before we begin, if stories about kindness, hope, and unexpected miracles move your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Stories, because these moments deserve to be shared. Now listen closely, because this is not just a story, it's a reminder of who we can be for one another. Night was quiet in the corporate hospital wing, the kind of silence that hums with loneliness rather than peace. When Daniel Reyes pushed his janitor cart down the polished hallway, the squeak of its wheel echoing softly. Daniel was a single dad, 36 years old, with tired eyes that had learned how to smile for his 8-year-old daughter, even when his own world felt heavy. He worked nights because it paid a little more, because it kept the lights on, and because it allowed him to be home in the mornings to walk Sophia to school. That night, as he wiped fingerprints off glass doors, he heard laughter, sharp, bitter laughter, coming from the last room at the end of the hall. Inside lay Victor Hale, the CEO whose name was carved into the city skyline, a man worth billions, now paralyzed from the waist down after a car accident that stole his body, but not his pride. Victor laughed whenever nurses spoke about therapy, laughed whenever doctors mentioned hope, laughed because believing again felt more painful than giving up. When Daniel entered to empty the trash, Victor glanced at him with amused contempt. "What are you smiling at?" Victor scoffed. Daniel paused, embarrassed, then replied gently, "Just thinking about my daughter. She believes anything is possible." Victor snorted. "Belief doesn't make legs work." Daniel hesitated, then said something he would later replay in his mind 1,000 times. "I don't know much, sir, but if you want, I'll help you walk." The room went still. Then Victor burst into laughter, loud and cruel. "You? A janitor? You'll help me walk?" Daniel felt his face burn, but he didn't argue. He simply nodded. "Yes, sir. If you ever want help, I'm here." He finished his job and left, unaware that those words had cracked something inside a man who hadn't felt hope in months. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel kept his promise in quiet ways. He greeted Victor every night. He listened when no one else had time. He spoke about Sophia, about how she learned to ride a bike by falling again and again, about how she cried and said she couldn't do it until one day she did. Victor mocked him at first, then tolerated him, then slowly waited for him. One night, after a particularly brutal therapy session, Victor whispered, "Why do you care?" Daniel answered honestly, "Because I know what it's like to feel stuck. My wife died 3 years ago. Some days getting out of bed feels impossible. But my daughter, she needs me to try." Something shifted then. Victor stopped laughing. He started asking questions. And one night, when the hospital was quiet, Victor said, barely audible, "Help me sit up." Daniel froze. He wasn't trained, but he called a nurse, stayed beside Victor, encouraged him, counted breaths, held his shaking hands. Victor cried out in pain, then in rage, then finally in tears. Real tears, the kind that cleanse. From that night on, Victor stopped refusing therapy. He fought through agony, humiliation, and fear, and Daniel was there, cheering softly, reminding him that progress wasn't loud, that strength didn't always roar. Months later, something miraculous happened. Victor stood, just for a moment, with braces and support, sweat pouring down his face, tears streaming freely. He looked at Daniel and broke completely. "You said you'd help me walk," he sobbed. "I laughed at you." Daniel smiled, eyes wet. "You didn't laugh at me. You laughed at hope." When Victor was discharged, the world expected him to return to power unchanged. Instead, he did something no one saw coming. He created a foundation for injured workers and single parents, and the first scholarship went to Sophia. The second gift was a new job for Daniel, facility manager, daytime hours, full benefits. When Daniel tried to refuse, Victor said, "You helped me walk. Let me help you stand." Years later, Victor would walk unaided across a stage, but he would always say his greatest recovery wasn't his legs, it was his heart, healed by a janitor who dared to care. And if this story touched you, reminded you of the power of kindness and quiet promises, please like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories. Your support helps us share more stories like this. Stories that prove compassion can change lives, one simple act at a time.